Göbekli Tepe is the oldest place of worship ever discovered, predating Egyptian pyramids by 6,500 years. Peerless in architecture and artistry, this monument is a true wonder to behold. And you're looking at just 1% of the entire site currently. Now, the reason we're doing this video is that recent discoveries have made this site even more impressive. And we're about to blow your mind. The site of Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey keeps fascinating archaeologists as it's being exposed, little by little. The excavations since 1995 have been accompanied by a lively discussion about the meaning and implications of its remarkable early Neolithic megalithic architecture, unprecedented in its monumentality, complexity, and symbolic content. The building history and the chronological relations between the different structures, however, remain in many ways a challenge and open to further analysis. But new discoveries are showing that these people had very advanced knowledge. Israeli archaeologists find hidden patterns at the world's oldest temple, Göbekli Tepe, which, by the way, means Potbelly Hill. Neolithic hunter-gatherers who erected massive monoliths in central Turkey around 12,000 years ago had command of geometry, cosmology, and a much more complex society than previously thought. Well, who would think anything different when they see these bas-relief carvings with advanced archaeoastronomical positioning, almost to perfection? And we're going to get to these top pieces, these lentils, which weigh tons, that sit on top of these vertical, beautiful effigies. Now, this is the paper which is slated to come out in May of this year, Geometry and Architectural Planning at Göbekli Tepe. And what they've uncovered is advanced geometry at the site. In multiple locations, they're finding perfect unilateral and isosceles triangles and other geometric patterns that are unexplainable. But what I find the most interesting about this site is its similarities to other megalithic sites and underexplained societies. Now, take a look at this pillar at Göbekli Tepe. And I think it's very significant. It's showing a type of loincloth that the Native Americans wore in many other ancient cultures, including the Dogon with a belt. The positioning of the fingers and the long, weird nature of them in the front of this pillar, this is not something unique. This is something that's well known, but seldom talked about. So I'm going to bring you over here to Easter Island, where you can see an actual picture of a moai that you've probably never seen before. Most people think these are just the heads above the surface, but the subsurface portion is actually longer than the aerial portion. In some cases, 2/3 of the structure is buried and only 1/3 is exposed. And some of the moai are 60 feet in height. But look at the fingers. Look at the fingers and the way they are thin and slender here, and buried under 12,000 years of sediment, which no one will talk about except Diamond and people like Robert Schoch. What we're looking at here, if we take a sediment profile of the island, is 12,000 years of deposition, which is dating this object to the same time as this object with the same exact fingers. Same time. Now, the people here are literally on the other side of the globe as the people that are here, carving almost identical, gigantic, geometrically shaped effigies Do you see the similarities here? No one wants to date this totem at 12,000 years except me and a few others. And it's clearly based on this depositional analysis, geologically speaking. The geomorphology here, I can basically prove in a master's thesis that this statue has been sitting here in this position for over 12,000 years. Just like this one, which was recently uncovered, to show the same fingers in the same position, in the same square box as this one in Turkey. Turkey, Easter Island, opposite sides of the globe. And take a look at some of these carvings. This is a 12,000-year-old jaguar from Turkey. Now, jaguars were well known by the Mesoamericans and the Mayans, but not so much in Turkey. And here's more of the Göbekli Tepe excavation. Look at all the structures. There are thousands of these square structures, hundreds of these circles. Almost none of it has been excavated at this point, just a very small fraction. Now let's talk about it geologically and when it was made. According to the people dating it, Göbekli Tepe and the Moai were sitting well above ground right here at the bottom of the last ice age, which had lasted for 100,000 years. About 14,500 years ago, something warmed the planet geologically instantaneously 20 degrees centigrade from 50 to 30 on the baseline. And then there was a rapid cooling event and a warming. And that stayed for about 1,000 years. And another rapid cooling, the second Dryas, and a warming. And that stayed for an instant. And then another cooling event, the extreme cooling event, which killed most of all the megafauna on Earth 12,900 years ago. And during this time, at this point right here at 11,005, Göbekli Tepe was buried or created, according to the mainstream. And then temperatures rose again, 15 degrees C to the modern era. So it was in the planning period of this cosmic catastrophe that Göbekli Tepe was created. It could have taken this whole time. It's my opinion that from 14,500 to 11,500 is when they created Göbekli Tepe and all the structures. And this was to save all of the information that these ancient cultures had for us today. But almost no one is willing to say that. These bas relief carvings are indicative of advanced culture with language, art, community, cosmology, advanced scientific knowledge, and more. And quickly, take your eye up here at this weird figure up here. This is the handbag. The swan, Cygnus the swan, maybe even holding the sun. Maybe Cygnus the swan controls the solar outbursts. Maybe it's a crane, the bringer of life. But these handbags have been carried by the Sumerians, the Akkadians, and the Mayans. This is not a new topic. We think these are just a few thousand years old, these effigies. But we can see the same symbology 12,000 years ago here at Göbekli Tepe. It's the same. Clear evidence of advanced technology, advanced culture, pre-Diluvian times, pre-flood. And they were trying to pass this information on to future generations. And it was held on to. The Sumerians knew about it. The Sumerian kings list goes back 400,000 years, for goodness sake. So history is a lie. And take a look at this jaguar effigy and look at the Mayan wearing a jaguar helmet. This is not a coincidence, folks. The jaguar is very important. The Mayans kept it alive with the handbag. So did the Sumerians with the handbag. And the pine cone representing the pineal gland. This culture 12,000 years ago also was aware of all these things. The jaguar and its significance. This is a 12,000-year-old, 8-inch high bas relief on a 12-ton pillar done by hunter-gatherers. How stupid do you have to be to believe that narrative? The boar. These are all 12,000-year-old bas reliefs. Take a look. How stupid do you have to be to believe that hunter-gatherers were able to assemble this geometrically complex, cosmologically correct, anatomically correct, the artistry, the architecture, the engineering, on and on. Now, here's an example of Akkadian bas relief thousands of years later. And it strikes me as being very similar to the technology. What's going on with science, with archaeology, with astronomy, with cosmology? Why are they lying to us? Why would they lie? What are they hiding? Well, it's clear that 12,000 years ago, there was an ancient culture that had advanced technology. And the only reason that they would lie to us is because they are hiding this information for control. If you don't feel like a slave locked down in your house right now, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. The mechanism is control. They do not want you to know what these people knew. There's no evidence of wars. There's no evidence of anything but advanced knowledge and amazing talent 12,000 years ago. Destroyed by an event. Well, worldwide. Here we are at Easter Island, the same effigies, clearly buried in meters, tens of feet of sediment. Same structures at Göbekli Tepe 12,000 years ago in Turkey. I hope this tantalizes you. We're about to go on an expose from many sites worldwide that all corroborate this same information. Advanced cultures living a long time ago, trying to shelter the storm, basically. And that storm is the Younger Dryas event, which basically, well, it made the world think in a much different pattern. I can't even find the graph. There it is. So this megalithic site at Göbekli Tepe was built right at those flexure points. They knew what was going to happen. And whatever that was, they encoded it in stone right here. This is the warning to all of us. There's too few people studying these bas reliefs, and we need to get more people on it. I hope you got something out of the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Share this with like-minded people, and stay tuned for more evidence on why we have been lied to. Be safe. We love you. And keep digging.